workshop. This is a Crosslink workshop for what we call Milestone 4C. And Crosslink, just one thing that's different about this one is I'm just going to do a quick intro. We're going to dive in, play with the code, and do fun stuff for a while. And then at a particular time, we'll switch to more of a general purpose discussion and frequently asked questions sort of format. So diving in, I'm just going to explain Crosslink really quick. It's a potential consensus upgrade we're working on at Shielded Labs, and it improves decentralization of infrastructure participation by introducing new categories of infrastructure, finalizers and stakers. It decentralizes issuance better than just mining, in our opinion. It simplifies the Zcash ecosystem and engineering around it by removing the certain cases of rollbacks, or most cases of rollbacks. It improves the security of Zcash, especially in the face of unforeseen flaws or failures in either proof of work or proof of stake for some cases. And so we like it. We think it's one of several initiatives at Shielded Labs. All of our initiatives have a theme of keeping Zcash focused on being unstoppable private money, and that's our intent and goal with Crosslink. Okay, so this workshop, we've been doing a series of workshops that demonstrate more and more functionality in a prototype. This one demonstrates something we called Staking Day, which is a part of the design that balances a bunch of trade-offs, including privacy, security, financial incentives. And the basic idea of Staking Day is there's a cycle of time, like a fixed regular cycle that repeats, and only during a portion of it can you, as a staker, stake or unstake. And again, that's balancing all these trade-offs, and so it also adds like this certain rhythm or event around Zcash. So that's what we're going to explore and experiment with during this workshop and get feedback from all of you. Anything else? Yes, and I already mentioned we're just going to dive in, and then later we can do general questions and back about Crosslink or other Shielded Lab stuff maybe. Okay, so I think Andrew's going to start with describing the finalizing node and wallet.
Right, I think you should be able to see my screen. I can't see whether or not I'm sharing audio, which would be nice, but it's currently not clear.
I hear you. Do you mean the audio of your screen?
Yeah. I guess we will keep.
Can you hover over some blocks and see if they make a sound? Yeah, I can hear that.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yes, this is the latest iteration of the Zebra Crosslink wallet. In its current format, it is a single executable that bundles both the Zebra node and the wallet, along with the Zyno indexer. And we have the separation that we can pull it out later as needed, but we get a few benefits from having it all in one. And one of the nice things that we get to do is show this visualization of the proof of work chain alongside the finality certificates that we're generating with Crosslink. And so if we look at the center here, this teal colored chain is the sequence of proof of work blocks. They're kind of sized here by how many transactions they contain. And if we look at the final certificate that we've got here, we can see that's pointing to proof of work height 137. And that means that everything, that and all of its ancestors are considered finalized, i.e. they can never be reeled past or rolled back. All of those transactions can be relied upon. And then above that, we have, I mean, you just saw this this block got pushed into a sidechain, and the fact that it's hollow suggests that it's not finalized, and we saw that it could just get reeled. So in general concept, this hasn't changed too much since last time. We'll go into a few other things. If you're playing around with it, you can click on things to center them, or you can reset view to jump to the top, that kind of thing. And of course, once again, we can zoom in and out, which is much requested feature from a couple of workshops ago that we added last time. So zooming out a bit, we have the on the right hand side of the UI, we have the finalizers list. This is a global view of the roster, and it shows all of the people, all of the nodes who have any stake assigned to them for finalizing. This is a public address, and we're also, you know, we've got a little what would you call it? Kind of bar ratio breakdown of who has the most stake in this particular setup. So we're at a.
Can I just interrupt briefly? Have we given people the download for if they want to download the program yet?
Good question. I am not sure if it's currently available. If that has been publicized.
Okay, I will post it in the chat.
Brilliant, thank you.
Oh, I also posted a chat. I should have mentioned, for context, there's a few different ways to participate. So you can either run the full node on a desktop platform. There's a demo mobile wallet. So those two options. And then with the full node, you can either just use the wallet to stake, I believe, or you can also operate a finalizer. So you have like a variety of options of ways to participate.
Yeah, so the right hand side of the screen is kind of global view. So we've got the finalizer list, and then at the bottom right here we have the faucet. So we can request CTAS from the faucet, and we can see a transaction is being generated on the left hand side within our wallet to show that that is going through the pipeline towards getting into a block and coming towards us. So this on the left is a kind of more typical wallet view. I think we've got our history of transactions, and then the ability to send or request or create new transactions, send money to other people, stake, unstake, redelegate, all that fun stuff, which we'll go into that in more detail in a sec. And because we are operating the faucet directly ourselves, we get to show what that's doing, which is kind of fun because we get to see, oh, this got mined here, and normally the block reward is 62500, but it got a little bit more from miners fees. We can see kind of how many people are getting faucet requests, which is you know, it's nice to have that visibility. To explain a little bit of the UI, we're kind of tracking transactions all the way from like local from the proposed stage to building the transaction, to sending the transaction, seeing it in the mempool, seeing it in the first blocks, seeing it whether it's confirmed or not, and then there's a sufficient number of blocks on top, and then finally we can see whether or not it's in a finalized block. So this one, for instance, 143, if we click on that, it'll take us to the height of the block, and we can see that it has 2 blocks on top, which matches the visualizer here. Whereas this 141 is finalized, so it gets the blue filled double tick. And if you hover over the little status icon, it'll tell you what it means. We're also trying to keep track of transactions that we've seen that have ended up not in the best chain. So here we've got one that ended up on a side chain, received at 144. And there's the visualizer is running directly off Zebra, and the wallet is running through Zyno, through the general gRPC interface that that Zyno provides, and this means that there's occasionally a slight desync between the two views, but and this is a distributed system, so yeah, that's kind of par for the course. Right, so we have a bunch of our own staking positions, and currently most of them are all to this single finalizer, which happens to be myself. But it looks like this guy over here could do with a little bit more. So I'm going to copy his address, and at any time, although we happen to be entering staking day, we can retarget, we can move our stake from one finalizer to another. So let's pick this currently 22 CTAS position, click retarget, paste the address in there, and we'll retarget. So we can see that this transaction appears here. It started off with an all zeros TXID because it hadn't been built yet. And so there's no TXID available. And then once it's been built, we get an ID for it, and we can currently see that it's in the mempool, and hopefully that'll enter a block, and then we'll have assisted preventing too much centralization in the stakers. Now, let's see. There we go. So we've moved our delegation, and you may have also noticed that
it is now staking day.
And of course, yeah, we keep you updated on all the important events.
Oh, so that's the green line?
We have now finalized past the green line.
Finalized past the green line.
So the fact that it's finalized is only a requirement for telling the user. As soon as there are any blocks in staking day, you can start staking. We just don't want to like go into staking day, give you a big audio feedback, go out to staking day, go back in, give you another big audio feedback. So that's just a kind of hysteresis prevention thing. So you may have noticed that this transaction changed when the moved transaction got entered, and so we had a position where I had previously moved from somewhere else to this C92E finalizer. We then moved it again to 1E78, and then both of these keep track of the current value, the total accumulated value, as well as the yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Someone saying they have issues with the audio.
Yeah, it sounds like a couple people are having audio issues. For what it's worth, I had mic issues, and I just had to I quit my browser and restarted. I'm in the browser client a couple of times, and then it worked. So
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, web tech is unsolved technology. It's unsolved problems in computer science. All right, we're in staking day, so that means that we can stake some of the CTAS that we have in our wallet. So who should we pick? Let's pick you, and I can stake to that address. We'll build the transaction and then get going. So if anyone else has got a wallet running, then if you send me your public address, I can stake something to you. If you just copy the address up here, paste it in the Discord chat, I can send you some CTAS to get you on the roster. In the meantime, so we're staking here, and you can't see the previous staking window, but I staked made a few stakes in the previous staking window, and that means that they are now available to unstake once that that kind of bonding period has elapsed. So let's see if we maybe take this one. Decided that I'd actually like those 3 CTAS. I'm gonna use those for something directly, and so I'm gonna unstake them. And so that does not move them directly to my wallet once the unstaking is finished. that moves them to kind of another holding pool that I will then be able to withdraw from in the staking day that follows. So for a full life cycle of stake, unstake, withdraw, you need 3 separate staking days. Let's see comments. CQLs is saying they don't understand what's going on here right now. Anything in particular that is confusing that I can try and explain more? So this unstake doesn't move money into or out of your wallet. You just pay a fee for transferring between these 2 pools, and that's why we don't get this extra information, also the extra an extra value attached. Whereas this staking transaction here has moved 10 CTAS out of our wallet and into the staking pool and like attached it to one of the finalizers.
I got a question. When you when you click on the receive CTAS button, how long is it supposed to take before it goes from receiving, pending to you can actually send it?
I don't know if there's a good answer for supposed to. So if you click it, it should appear pretty shortly. If it doesn't appear, then currently there's kind of a queue of transaction creation that is going on, and the miner shielding and sending is kind of part of that queue. We're sharing the workload with them a little bit. So occasionally there will be, if you get unlucky with timing, there will be a bit of a delay between clicking the button and it showing up at all. Then once it exists locally, it again depend. Building a transaction is pretty CPU intensive, and it depends on basically how good your computer is to how fast that'll be. So that's probably between 4 and 20 seconds to actually build it, and then it'll get sent to the Zebra node, which is local, so that's pretty much instant, and then that'll get incorporated into a block or a block template ready to be mined. And assuming that it got shared in the mempool and got seen by the person who successfully mined, that depends a little bit on the mining period. Again, that's dependent on the computers running it, because these are like minimum difficulty blocks. There's no attempt to space the timing between them by like changing the difficulty. So it's pretty much, I think at some point previously it was about 2 minutes between blocks. It's also been faster at certain times. So
yeah, I just posted an updated picture. It looks like it's hitting. There's a bit of a delay, so I was just curious on the timing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I mean, how long did that end up taking for you? It's kind of a 3-minute-ish round trip. Does
yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah.
One thing that's not working on my side is I can't copy my finalizer address. I click it and then nothing happens. I can't paste, so I don't know how to get my address. Is there like another way of doing it?
If you, it's not appearing when you do the copy. Like it doesn't go to your clipboard.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's using my clipboard properly. I'm not sure.
Interesting. What platform are you on?
It's just the Ubuntu flavor, just latest.
Okay. Sam may be able to fill you in more on Ubuntu, like Linux specific details. I am trying to remember whether we print out your finalizer at the beginning of the program. You may be able to close the program, restart, and then look at the logs, but I'm not 100% sure that we do print it out.
Yeah, there is also the other failsafe is you could send me there's a file in your config somewhere that contains the keys for the wallet. which you could send me, and then I could produce your finalized address for you if you want.
It's
That's
Sam's
Not
ploy
very
to win the
secure
contest.
process. Yeah.
Oh, Merrick pointed out, Merrick gave you a debug log on the Linux clipboard issue.
Could
And
not.
then another option is
Uh,
just maybe display the whole address instead of it truncated, and I can just manually copy and paste.
yeah.
Can you display the full address and then take a photo with your phone and then do image to text and then send yourself a message or send this group a message?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't think we currently have a way of showing the full finalized addresses.
Okay.
All right,
if it's
so the
not,
winners
then
of this finalizer contest are going to be people running on Windows instead of Linux.
or Mac. Yeah.
I mean, or it seems to be. So I've done all the testing on Wayland, so it might be a Wayland X11 weirdness difference. But that's sort of standard Linux, right? You think you tested on Linux, but you only tested on a Linux, and then it doesn't work on other Linuxes.
Really hasn't been able to get it to run on Mac yet.
Of which there is one kind of Linux per Linux user.
Yes, exactly.
So we are in a staking day, and I previously unstaked, and just to point out that has transferred that that position into the withdrawable bonds pool. So in the next staking day, I will be able to actually withdraw those. Yeah. So
Can
we can
someone
also
copy a finalizer in the Discord chat? That way I can just test the feature directly.
that. Yeah.
That'll work. Thank you.
Yeah, I pasted one. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, which was, is this you, Sam? This 302. This is someone outside the finalized list. Introducing
302
people.
is me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a popularity contest at that point, isn't it? We can have a look at. I guess just as a reminder, I'm going to double check whether it does actually show you your information. Yeah, we show wallet addresses, but I think not pub key stuff currently. Oh, wait. Well, we show someone's pub key. I don't think that's ours though.
Maybe the owner of
Probably.
that pub key would appreciate it if you would post it to the chat.
I think that's a different kind of public key. I think that's a network
It's
level
possible.
public key.
Yeah. Sorry, I think. Sorry, yeah, it's the root public BFT one. That's me. Yeah, it's currently. Oh, but that's as reversed.
Are those
by
bytes in order?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the 32 8-bit numbers rather than the single 256 256-bit number. Okay. I can waffle on about various different things in here. Is there anything in particular that I should show before transitioning over to Dorian to talk about the mobile wallet.
I think you should show that there's a minor wallet access now, which I think we didn't have last time.
Yeah, this is new, and it's nice being able to see all of the different, like all the little force transactions that are being sent and that stuff. Let's see.
There's also a mute button in the top right if anybody is too startled by the beginning and end of staking day. But who would want to stop themselves from hearing all the beautiful sounds? You just stay alert.
So let's see. Philly can't run it. Does that mean you have an x86 Mac? I suspect that's what that means.
Oh, that's
Els wanted to know if she could use a mobile wallet earlier.
Nate finalizing.
Nate has a
seems like trustworthy
finalizer.
fellow.
I was able to successfully stake 1 CTAS. Woohoo!
Awesome,
Right.
nice one.
I think it wouldn't be a disaster if Philly compiled from source, right? Just have to
Yeah, I mean
run
that should be fine.
cargo build.
Feely's
Really?
in.
Yeah, do put in dash f viz underscore GUI if you want to have a GUI wallet. Oh yeah, I was going to mention just about the mining. The previous time we had slight issues because everyone was mining at the same time, and then everyone was using the same Faucet wallet and to try and distribute notes to themselves, and you'd get two blocks would contain 2 different Faucet transactions, but they'd both be trying to use the same underlying orchard notes, which meant that they were incompatible. So now we do a thing where it's not crazy. We randomize the notes that we're picking to try and reduce this crossover. So if you get 2 different blocks happening at the same time, there's a good chance that they are not overlapping in the notes, and so they can both be compatible and both actually end up happening in the canonical history. Yeah, there's a bunch of implementation stuff I'm very happy to talk about, but I think let's pass it over to Dorian to talk about the mobile wallet. Okay, I'll stop sharing, and then Dorian, I'll hand over to you.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go to see this. Can you see a mobile screen?
Oh yeah.
Yep, that's visible.
Hey. So me too. I have a set of already staked positions. Although I did all of them with a single finalizer, just to make it obvious when I do targeting. But before doing that, I wanted to talk about some of the things we added. We added, first of all, an indicator for whether you're on a staking day or not. You also have a pie chart of all the finalizers. There's this tab which shows you, the ones you're currently staked to, but there's also one for the global network. And yeah, you can see that there's 4. Anyway, let's do some staking. So for staking, I go to stake. I press here, and then I can choose any finalizer. In this case, I'm going to go with C9, and I'm going to just take 1 CTAS. There. So here's the new transaction. This view like what you see in the view does not reflect what is on the chain. This is more like a local only, so don't jump to conclusions here. This is where you can actually see the state of the transaction, and we can see it's still on mempool. There's a weird thing going on where sometimes the
and try to use them while we do.
I'm curious
Q&A.
if Els is going to try the mobile app, since that's what they requested originally. I don't know if Els is still around.
I think what we can do is
Go ahead.
I think we can do the Q&A in the video, and then I and Judah and some other people can continue to do like tech support in the chat while we do Q&A.
Okay. Yeah, I can kick off the Q&A. So just bear with me one second. So we decided to add this Q&A session to the workshop because you know, it's clear from scanning Twitter and the forum that there's a lot of like misinformation, misconceptions, misunderstandings about Crosslink's design and what our intentions are. So we wanted to take some time to let people ask any and all questions, no matter how controversial. I posted an announcement for the Q&A a week or so ago on X and the Zcash community forum and asked for questions in advance, and we received a handful of them. We can start off with those, and then if people want to ask questions in the audience, we can add those as well afterwards. So I'm going to go down the list in order of questions received. I picked about 13 of these, and some of these should go relatively fast. So what I'll do is I'll read out the question, then I'll call on the person who I think is probably best suited to answer it. Okay, first question is from Pelican Invasion on X, and it's how do you justify the added complexity that Crosslink introduces to the Zcash protocol? Nate, do you want to tackle that one?
That's a good question.
Sure. I think this is a really good question and really good pushback because, any complexity in the consensus protocol is a risk.
Like the goal is security.
The way
so.
I'm justifying it for myself is just that basically we need to reach a bar of having really high assurance that it improves security and safety and does what it's intended to do before we would feel comfortable activating it. And we're not there yet, so we're in the process. And then I think the payoff will be worth it because for quite a few reasons. There's a lot of reasons, but like economic reasons, just distributing issuance via staking, I think can spread it better than to miners. Preventing rollbacks, I think, has a lot of benefits that are like second order that may not be visible to a lot of people. So, for example, I learned, for example, that the near intense bridge has, their organization has to have a centralized fund in order to try to make users whole if there are rollbacks. And that kind of thing works well as long as there's not a big enough black swan. So the problem is, if it's working well, it's still imposing a cost across the ecosystem. And one of my goals with crypto in general is to lower costs across the board. But then there's this worst cost where if there's a large enough rollback, various participants and entities around the ecosystem are going to blow up or have financial trouble or whatnot. And as users, we don't necessarily know what all of those are. It's costly to learn about all of those. And sometimes maybe they're proprietary. And so those costs are out there, and adding finality would help provide a level of safety that removes a lot of those unknown costs or risks. So I think it's worth it. And that is assuming we reach a bar of like excellence in analysis that shows it's worth it. I mentioned kind of in my intro also, there is always some chance that proof of work or proof of stake might have a flaw that's discovered down the road. And in that case, Crosslink provides some amount of safety from either of those failures. So for me, it's kind of totally in line with making Zcash unstoppable, right? Because unstoppable means even in black swan disaster scenarios, it's still safe. So.
Can I respond to? I love
Yeah,
this
go for it.
question from Pelican Invasion, because the goals of Crosslink, I'm going to repeat like the two most important bits of what Nick just said. Please don't
Sorry, go
listen
for
to
it. Who?
Zuko's gonna.
Did we lose Jason or did we lose me?
Or did we lose me?
Can anyone
No,
hear me?
I hear you, Zuko. And I hear Nate as
Oh.
well. You guys hear me?
Okay, I don't
Yeah.
hear Zuko. I'll just
Everyone hears
wait.
everyone, except Nate doesn't hear me. All right, I'll just say my piece. The two things that Nate said that are the most important. I too love this question from Pelican Invasion because the goals of Crosslink are security and like sustainability, and complexity is the enemy of security. And so the answer is the question is, how do you justify the complexity? And the answer is it's only justified if the analysis and scrutiny shows that the result is more secure than without it.
Okay. So another question from Pelican Invasion is, if proven POS systems already exist, what is the rationale for rolling out a bespoke consensus mechanism instead of adopting a well-tested one? And before you guys answer, I just wanted to give some background that, originally what we used was a Rust implementation of Tendermint called Malachite. We decided to move away from it, and we used our own version that we call Tenderlink. And the main advantage of doing that was we weren't dependent upon informal systems for development and bug fixes, and it was much lighter, had less code, less technical debt, and was easier to maintain. Anything else to say with regard to that?
We sneak a vape in the middle of this meeting.
I mean, I have a thought, which is, sorry, I'm worried now if I'm talking over anyone because I couldn't hear Zuko.
No,
But
you're close.
yeah, my thought is we're using this general approach. This approach has developed while we were prototyping of stripping things down to be as simple as possible. So this is one example of doing a custom simplified implementation of the BFT portion. Another example is we've scaled back or removed things that were in the upstream trailing finality layer book, which is where the Crosslink mechanism came from. And the rationale for doing that is that by stripping things down to make them simpler, it's easier to analyze everything, it's easier to implement, and it's easier to verify it's doing the right thing. And then if we find that we really need to add something in for a specific purpose, we can develop that rationale, analyze that change, and add it in. So that's the approach that we're taking. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say. And there's also a thing that's a little bit subtle, which is as we learned, because originally we wanted to just take a BFT proof of stake thing out of the box. But what we're learning is that there's actually a lot of nuance around like privacy, performance, all these different trade-offs. And by stripping it down to make a custom thing, we're aiming to make it like simpler and easier to verify. So yeah, to me that's interesting because it ties back into the previous question of how do you justify the complexity? Well, one thing we're doing is stripping it down and removing as much complexity as we can.
Okay. So the next question is from Zolder.eth from the Korean community. This came on X. What is the projected or targeted staking reward range for Crosslink at mainnet launch? Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about your simulator and sort of the inputs that are relevant there?
Yeah, sure. Your stake is going to be the main thing is your contribution over the entire TVL of the so-called staking pool. That's the ratio that's important. There's also considerations about the size of Orchard and how much of Orchard is staked, but I'll just post the link to the simulator in the chat, and you can get an intuition on how all that works. But in general, it's just how much you're staking versus how much everybody else is staking, and that will, shake out to whatever reward. We're kind of hoping that there's like a PID controller balancing mechanism where if the staking rewards go below a certain percentage, we imagine people will unstake because they're not getting what they want and they can, get yield elsewhere. And when it goes above a certain percentage, it will encourage people to stake until that percentage goes down. So there's probably some sort of natural ebb and flow that will happen there as well.
Okay. Next question from the same person is, what are the sources of staking rewards, NewsAC issuance, transaction fees, or a combination of both? How would this interact with or alter the existing mining reward structure? So the current mining reward structure is 80% go to miners and 20% goes to the dev fund. Under our proposal, we split the non-dev fund block reward. So 20% continues to go to the dev fund, 40% goes to miners, and 40% goes to stakers. Anything else anybody wants to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add just a little bit about the transaction fees. So currently, those all go to miners. They are very small. Last time I looked, I'm pretty certain they're very small still. A separate protocol change that we're advocating called the network sustainability mechanism should be going in NU 7, and it basically lumps transaction fees and issuance together. So anyone receiving a portion of the issuance from the NSM will be also receiving some recycled transaction fees. Some of them still go to the miner. So what that means is if transaction fees grow large, then that will be distributed to both miners and stakers, and also a dev fund if they're whatever that structure is at that time.
Okay, next question is from Chewbacca from the forum, but this was presented on X. Given a relatively small validator set, approximately 100, how does Crosslink mitigate the risk of jurisdictional capture? For example, if OFAC were to blacklist Orchard-related activity, could validators, finalizers, refuse to finalize blocks, leading to a finality stall? Nate?
That's a good question.
Let's see. So there's a few thoughts. So one is finalizers are constrained into what they can finalize based on what miners have already mined, and there's a delta from the tip of mining. So that means that it's like the majority of the mining network is the output that the finalizers are considering. So finalizers' discretion is really limited. So can they stall? Individual finalizers could start voting no or refusing to vote on blocks. And hopefully that would be observed and stakers would react to it in our current design. And so I guess if that didn't happen and enough finalizers refuse to finalize those blocks, then there would be a stall, which is a very loud, condition. The other There is another angle I'm keeping in mind, which is that it is much easier for finalizers to migrate around geographically because all they really need is lightweight networking resources. It may be fairly feasible for them to use network privacy. And so they may be able to navigate jurisdictions much more readily than miners. And that's one reason I'm motivated to include finalizers in the infrastructure for Zcash.
You don't hear me? Who can hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, I'm just going to talk.
I can't hear Zuko. But...
All right, you be quiet for a second, Nate. One, I agree with everything Nate just said about could finalizers stall or like censor orchard transactions or something. It's really difficult because the miners already still doing what they currently do for Zcash already make that really difficult. But the other layer is the stakers. It's the stakers' job to monitor the finalizers and delegate your stake to good finalizers who are supporting the network.
Okay, next question is also from Chewbacca. If finality requires 2/3 participation, what happens if more than 1/3 of validators go offline for extended period, for example, due to a major cloud outage? At what point would manual intervention be required, and who would decide when and how to intervene?
I could take that.
Go for
it. Yes, so if more than 1/3 of finalizer weight is not signing new updates, then the BFT finality portion stalls or doesn't have updates. In that case, either they can recover eventually, or else there needs to be some sort of intervention. This is an area where we've stripped down from the original TFL book. So the original TFL book had something, there's been multiple names, but it had a design which would cause the network itself to basically stop processing transactions, but allow mining to continue. So in the case that a bunch of finalizers went offline for a long time, then eventually the whole Zcash network would enter like this emergency mode where blocks are still being mined, but nobody can do anything. We decided to remove that for a few reasons. Part of it is just this general idea of simplifying. And then another rationale is that we realize there could always be cases that we don't anticipate where some sort of urgent intervention is necessary. And so what we intend to do is prepare a patch ahead of time that basically disables basically freezes all of the funds which are staked and disables staking operations, and basically re-enables Zcash functioning as just a proof of work chain. So this would be an emergency patch, which means the only way it would influence the network is if most nodes and miners and exchanges and stuff choose to deploy it. The reason we would want to write it up ahead of time is so people could understand what it does before they need to make a decision, if they ever needed to make a decision. And finally, by removing that functionality from the TFL book design, sorry, I lost brain fart. By removing it from the original TFL book design, in the event of a finality stall, proof of work still functions and transactions still behave as they do currently. So that's sort of as if Crosslink downgraded to what Zcash is today already. which doesn't seem that bad to me, but that's that's the state of thinking on that.
Okay, so Chewbacca has a follow-up question on emergency patches specifically. They say, while emergency patches may be necessary for safety, how does Crosslink minimize the reliance on them in practice? And how does the design ensure alignment with the principle of unstoppable private money?
Okay, I can take
Good
that
question, too.
also. So an emergency patch to be successfully deployed is basically like a hotfix chain fork, right? Anyone can do that. That's always the case in any cryptocurrency. And they've been deployed before, like early on, Bitcoin maybe in 2013 had an integer overflow bug, and then there's like an urgent update to fork to fix it. It's a permissionless system. Developing a patch ahead of time, like before it needs to be used, has a few effects. One is people can look at it and decide, is this the kind of thing I would ever support deploying? And if so, in what conditions would I deploy it? And then there's a third influence it can have, which is because everyone knows it's already there and people know about it, it might influence some game theory stuff like, oh, if I'm like a malicious attacker and I can control staker or finalizers, sorry, and I want to use that to hold the network. Well, now in my calculus of how worth it is to do that, I'm also aware, oh, there's already this patch that could recover from that if the community rallied around it. So that's going to change my like payoff matrix, I guess. So I don't see developing an emergency patch upfront as anything controversial at all, because like I could develop an emergency patch for Bitcoin today and it's a permissionless system. Anyone can do it. So I don't see that as an issue.
Somebody tell Nate that my answers to the last 4 or so questions, in addition to his answers, which are good, is that it's the staker's job to detect that. Like the most recent question is, how do you minimize the risk of the potential for an emergency hard fork getting abused? Which is a great question too. And the answer to that one, like all the other 4, is that the staker's job is to watch the finalizers and reward and increase the voting power of all the good finalizers.
Nate, can you hear Zuko now?
No.
Hey, Jason, explain that to Nate.
Okay, he's essentially saying that it's the staker's responsibility to hold finalizers accountable.
Yeah, everything I was saying.
Answer to your last 4 answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the theme is they are like the first line of defense. And then the things I've been discussing are if that already has failed. So there's like multiple lines of defense. It's like, belt and suspenders is this concept from security where you want to have multiple safeguards that are redundant. And that's what this design has.
Right. And there's sometimes a risk when you are a
Defensive
security
depth,
engineer and you design a system with multiple layers of defense. And then someone notices one of them and they're like, ooh, that's fallible. That's weak. I can think how that could fail. And they're right, that one could fail. But it's important to know that there are multiple lines of defense and sort of which ones are the first that protects the user, and how the different failure modes would have to sort of stack up to penetrate multiple of them at once. Anyway,
Yeah.
so my point is just the stakers monitoring the finalizers is a critical line of defense, and the proof of work miners doing their thing with almost no like just doing the same old thing that they've been doing on Zcash for 9 years and they've been doing on Bitcoin for 15 years. That's another super important line of defense. So this whole emergency patch thing is like the 5th or whatever in layers of protection. And that one is pretty rare. It happened in Bitcoin in 2013. It happened in Ethereum one time, whatever year that was, 2016 or whatever. But it may never happen. We may never get to needing that layer of defense if Zcash is protected by all the other ones.
Okay, I want
Also,
to
one last bit on that. This idea of the emergency hard fork or the emergency thing are very rare, but just a level set about what a hard fork is, just technically, it's just kind of a software upgrade where everybody agrees to run the same software, reject the same blocks, run the same relay filters, and things like that. And those happen kind of all the time on blockchains because people upgrade their nodes. So the idea of a hard fork is not as scary and icky as it would be. We're just on the emergency kind of black swan side of this when we talk about these things. So just keep that in mind too. Thank you.
Okay, Chewbacca has a couple questions about different attack scenarios. I want to answer one and then move on to some other questions. So this question is, how does the system handle disputes over whether an event constitutes an attack? For example, if a significant portion of POS validators intentionally go offline during a future upgrade as a form of protest, how would that situation be interpreted and resolved?
Okay, I have a response. I'm still a little tripped up. If I'm talking over people, hopefully somebody lets me know. But okay, here's a core philosophical thing that's going on here is that for this to work well, we're leaning on the stakers as a community really hard. And the thing is, there's a few motivations to do that. One is it helps us strip down the technical side a bit, because the rationale for that is all of these distributed, or all of these proof of stake systems already are relying on the stakers' discretion for their security. So when the protocol itself introduces specific rules to enforce specific things, or fees or slashing or these things, each of those facets of that protocol can be used in ways that the protocol designers don't anticipate. They could be used maliciously in every case. So analyzing all of them requires a lot of careful thought. And even after all of that, at the end of the day, we still have to rely on the staker's discretion. So sorry, now how do we define an attack? Well, that's a perfect question, because protocol designers could imagine an attack ahead of time and then bake in specific rules to try to accommodate that. But that's super brittle and is likely to cause problems and even leverage other kinds of attacks. And so at the end of the day, we need humans to be observing the network and decide, ooh, this is bad. And so in a case like that, that's a great example. Like if there's a bunch of finalizers who are behaving poorly, there's one question of what should be done about it. There's another question of, is this like a part of a malicious pattern? Those kinds of questions can't be answered by protocol designers ahead of time. So all of this is predicated on the staking community being proactive and able to coordinate well along with the developers. Yeah. So, and then finally, there's this notion that most stakers are lazy or don't pay attention or whatever. They don't respond until they've been like shocked by something like slashing or lower fees or whatever. And that I consider basically an argument against all of proof of stake. And meanwhile, I think that's also an argument against mining, because most miners don't really care. They just run their miners, and at the end of the day, it's human discretion that needs to monitor the safety of the protocol. So this is sort of a reductionist idea. Okay, now I'm
Okay.
going to read a bunch.
We have a question. This was a comment from Mert from X that I converted into a question. He's essentially saying, why does Crosslink pursue a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake approach instead of focusing on increasing mining competition, especially given that mining decentralization has already improved materially since the idea was first proposed?
Wait, sorry, what was the question?
Okay. There's a few rationales. One is that mining decentralization doesn't help with the black swan of rollbacks. Another one is that compromises, if we think about the worst case compromises against mining or proof of stake, they have costs that, so if you analyze, okay, if you analyze what is the cost to say a 51% attack against proof of work, or you analyze what's the cost to like a greater than 2/3 malicious signing attack against proof of stake, or maybe it's actually greater than 50% if you combine it with a network attack. If you analyze those extreme costs, they have different trade-offs. So in order to compromise proof of work, you need to pay a certain rate or forego a certain rate of revenue for a certain amount of time to cause a rollback. And if you want to cause multiple rollbacks, you need to pay more, and it's a rate per time. So let's say you want to cause a rollback that's about an hour long. The cost of that attack, which may not be paid by the attacker, by the way, it's just a cost to someone, usually miners in this case, is proportional to an hour of issuance. Meanwhile, if you think about the cost to compromise 2/3 of stake to someone, not necessarily the attacker, that cost is going to be 2/3 of the stake. So that's a very, very high cost relative to the proof of work attack. However, there's this other trade-off where if you have compromised the proof of stake, a proof of stake system by imposing that very large cost, then you're able to sign multiple histories freely. So it's like you pay this one-time really high cost to get going, and then the system is just kind of permanently compromised in a way. Meanwhile, proof of work, you pay a much smaller cost for a short time window to perform an attack during that time window. And if you want to repeat, you have to keep repeating that cost. So these are fundamentally different trade-offs in security. And so just decentralizing mining doesn't provide the kind of like cost-based defense resiliency that proof of stake can for these drastic cases. So in summary, like where are we going with this? We believe that a hybrid system can be more secure than a pure proof of work system. Like that's, and also a pure proof of stake system. So that's kind of where we land on that analysis and why we think it's worthwhile to do this instead of just futz with the mining network, which wouldn't change any of those big picture black swan dynamics.
Okay, I'm going to read what Zuko typed in here since some people can't hear him. I want to make sure his answer is reflected in the recording. So he says, one answer to this is that miner centralization, decentralization is not verifiable. You can't tell using your full node miner plus social media, whether there is actually one or two miners who actually control 75% of the hash rate, or there are actually hundreds of miners who each control only 0.5% of the hash rate. To verify and influence this requires social centralized mechanisms, corporate governance, legal policies, audits, etc. Basically not verifiable practice. Verifying or influencing miner centralization relies on human social trust. Okay, another question from Discord today, from Return If Lost, is, are there any design choices or future solutions that contributors have in plan that will make use of the vote extension features in Tendermint, Malachite, Tenderlink? And I'm assuming they mean for like governance purposes or for, yeah.
We don't have any specific plans. We have an explicit, like an explicit part of our agenda here is not to assume or imply stake will be involved in governance in any way. So basically, our approach is like governance agnostic. But meanwhile, elsewhere at Shielded Labs, we are working on improving ways to do shielded coin weighted polling and voting, just as a useful mechanism. So one way we tend to approach these things is like there's the technical mechanisms like proof of stake, vote extensions allow voting, these other shielded coin weighted voting protocols allow the voting, but that's separate from the decision or the decision of how should Zcash be governed, which is a group conversation, right? So we don't have any plans necessarily to leverage that. It would be fairly easy, I think, once we have Crosslink deployed.
Nate, can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes.
It maybe is worth disambiguating. So vote extensions are a tender link feature in the BFT rounds, where I presume it's for things. I think we talked about this before. I think it's for, you could attach a zero knowledge proof that attests something about the blockchain, and then finalizers have to perform this, and their vote in the BFT is not valid if their vote extension is not valid as well. So you can attach extra computation that way. We do not use that feature and have no intentions to use vote extensions in the Tenderlink sense. Then there's, of course, voting through stake generally for these governance things, which is, I guess, what you were referring to.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the distinction. Also, I want to just really quick.
Example is for verifiable off-chain data being finalized or Oracle data.
Yeah. While we're here, we're pretty hyper focused on just simplify and ship V1. But we do have an issue tracker, and there's a tag for brainstorms about neat or useful features that might be built on top of Crosslink V1 after it's deployed. So I would love anything like that to be put there. And if I don't see one, I'm going to go put one about leveraging that kind of thing. I'm personally interested in more like layer 2 support stuff for Zcash. But I'm not getting distracted by that yet.
It's also worth pointing out that these sort of extensions to Tendermint or other kind of esoteric features may, in addition to simplicity, proof of stake consensus mechanisms are an active field of research right now. And we're trimming things down and keeping the feature set minimal because we might, this is a loose guarantee or a loose statement here, that find a better consensus algorithm that we want to try to build a built for purpose implementation of, like we did with Tenderlink. So we're keeping that option open as well. Like our prototype is feature complete, but a prototype is not a proposal, and it's not a actual like pull request to Zebra, for example. So we plan on another, I don't know, year or so at this point of productionalization, of taking this and moving it, at least planning it out how we're going to move from here to a production system, and that will include probably a quick survey of the state of the art proof of stake consensus things that provide finality, and maybe also can break open the validator cap too, to provide more slots for people to run finalizers with.
Okay, I have one more question on my list that I want to present. So this is from Doxing on the forum, and they provided some context. They said, on Ethereum, Lido popularized liquid staking by allowing users to stake ETH and receive a liquid staking token that is redeemable 1-to-1 for ETH. This lets users earn staking rewards while using ST-ETH across DeFi, significantly improving capital efficiency. Applied to Crosslink, validators could similarly aggregate ZEC from contributors, stake it in the required multiples, and issue a liquid staking token representing a claim on underlying staked ZEC. Does Crosslink intend to only specify and implement the L1 staking mechanism, leaving the design and implementation of liquid staking tokens entirely to validators? Or will it impose prescriptive requirements, particularly around privacy, on any liquid staking tokens they issue?
Another great question. Who is that question from?
Excellent
Doxing
question.
on the forum.
Yeah, so Crosslink v1 will not have any functionality to support liquid staking tokens for the rationale of simplicity and shipping quickly. But originally I did want that functionality in there, and the rationale was liquid staking tokens might be a winner take all kind of marketplace, and I'm concerned about bad liquid staking tokens, operated by centralized exchanges, for example, or having bad privacy or whatever. So I wanted to have LST support built in, sort of to try to even the playing field, but I still think it's a winner takes all market, and that concerns me. And that's where we're at with LSTs. So it could be something that we work on for like a V2. Right, and I agree with Zuko that we should. So actually, we do have a notion that we want to be able to upgrade consensus quickly, which is a challenge for Zcash generally. But because of that thinking, deploy quickly, learn, and react quickly is where we would like to go. So like one story that would be my ideal is we deploy V1, then we see the emergence or arrival of liquid staking tokens or people talking about it or planning it, and then we react with a V1.1 upgrade or something to try to nudge LSTs in a healthy direction.
Okay, that was it for the list of questions. Does anyone have any questions about either the demo or general questions about Crosslink that they want to ask?
There's actually a couple more questions in the chat.
Okay.
Just one more, actually. Are we prepared to roll back the chain should Crosslink cause an issue? And
that's a great question.
Nate, take us more.
My gut instinct is no. I don't think we can roll back the chain. Technically we might be able to do it, but because of the shielded pool, we can't. Yeah, I don't think so. But I always keep in mind the black swan. Maybe some situation happens where I would have a different position, but I'm basically pretty strongly anti-rollback.
There's also just
I
the
would say
fact that you can. Oh, sorry. What real quick, Sam? There's just first the fact that anybody sounds important. Sam, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that there's unfortunate latency here, but the person asking the question should specify what kind of thing would cause that to be necessary, because the design of Crosslink is such that should something happen to proof of stake, or something goes wrong, or it stalls, then proof of work just continues as normal. So there should be absolutely no reason you would have to roll back proof of work if there's some kind of problem.
I typed my answers in the chat.
Yeah. So
there's one.
The crap. Go ahead, Nate. I lost my train of thought.
There is one really important consideration we've had because one reason proof of stake is appealing to me is the notion of slashing misbehaving stake. So there's this notion of social slashing, like the whole community comes together and they're like, that finalizer was involved in something that we all are like really certain was totally malicious, and we're going to punish anyone who delegated to them by just nuking their balance and like having that sort of rollback. So there's like a simple rollback where you just rewind history, but there's sort of the modify accounts kind of thing, and that can be appealing in a certain way, but it is like, obviously there be dragons, it's fraught with peril, and for Zcash it is relatively infeasible because if someone does something like that with a finalizer, and stakers who are staking to it are worried about being slashing, they withdraw to the orchard pool, which is shielded. So there's no way to unwind or tweak their specific account balances, which is kind of why Zcash and privacy are awesome in a way. So that factors into the design of the staking day. So all of these things are connected. So the design of the staking day, we need to have some amount of delay to prevent people from performing a malicious action and then immediately withdrawing their stake into the orchard pool. If we want to do that kind of slashing. The second piece is the emergency patch is there, and the length of the staking day cycle is sort of calibrated so that, if there was a really obvious disaster and widespread consensus that there should be some sort of freeze or some sort of like something specific to a set of stake that still happens to be staked, then this emergency patch could be the first step, because what it does is it just freezes all of the staking positions as they are, but then allows proof of work to continue. So that deploying that emergency patch is a little bit like saying, okay, we're not sure what's going on, something bad, let's just freeze this portion of the network of the ledger state related to staking, let everything else continue, and give us time to like assess the situation. And that, social slashing is tricky or controversial, but that's also very relevant for just like bugs. Like, there's this malicious bug. We know now that this finalizer has like an O day or something, or anyone has an O day against the system. Let's just use it for safety.
Yep. And nothing changes. There's no economic activity on the proof of stake chain. There are no transactions on the proof of stake chain. It's just this data structure that we call the finality certificate, which includes the proof of stake votes. That's the crosslink to the proof of work chain. I just wanted to be emphatic about that, because nothing really changes on the proof of work chain, including the ability to just do a hard fork anyway, like you could do if you don't like a transaction or you think something like a DAO hack happened or something like that, right? This is also an answer to the next question that I saw from Dre, which is, does Zcash Crosslink introduce any indirect interference or new trust assumptions for Zcash shielded assets, particularly on miner coordination, block construction, transaction ordering that could affect ZSA privacy or liveness guarantees? No, because we're not affecting any of the economic activity on the proof of work chain with our finality gadget or with Crosslink.
L's asked a great question, but not everyone can hear me, so I guess I'll start typing in my answer.
Why are the stakers being punished for the validator's actions? I'll let Nate talk too, but the current design does not have built-in slashing, so nobody's being punished. It's this idea of social slashing or redelegation when you find out that your finalizer is doing icky things. Go
Or
ahead.
well, yeah, with social slashing, like I was saying earlier, relying on the finalizer's human discretion. Well, humans can arrive to conclusions all kinds of ways, you know. So let's just put that aside, right? Because it could just be like they don't like a finalizer and there's a mob of a super majority that just hates one finalizer and they want to slash them. I would totally never support that, but theoretically, like that's the kind of thing that can happen with social stuff. So just put aside whether or not it's social or in the protocol. Crosslink has no slashing in the protocol, but either way, the idea of slashing is punish. So the way I think of proof of stake with delegation is, if you are delegating to a finalizer, you are endorsing them to be not malicious and have really good security, avoid getting hacked. And you are, if there is slashing, when you are staking to them, you're delegating to them, you are taking on a risk, a financial risk, where you could be harmed if they are malicious or get hacked. And the appeal of that is that people who care about their money should be doing due diligence, and so all the people should be like vetting the finalizers very carefully. That's the appeal, and that's the reason you slash them if something goes wrong. A lot of people feel like that sounds weird because it's like the innocent people are being punished, but the challenge is, it's really hard to tell if something bad happens who was malicious. Like maybe it wasn't the finalizer, they got hacked. Maybe it was the stakers and the finalizer was innocent. So the financial penalty isn't about punishing an attacker who's guilty and bad. It's about arranging the incentives so that people protect the network well. I think that's the argument for slashing.
Okay, so we've been going for a little over an hour and a half. Should we wrap it up here, or do people still want to stick around and ask and answer questions?
There's at least one more question from Dre regarding the incentives. By splitting the issuance, we have this incentive. He's calling them ideals, where the miners are getting paid 50% now, and the stakers are going to get the other 50%. My first answer to this, the question is, how do you address that? Is that we've talked to miners. I've personally spoken to some, and then we've had calls with larger, kind of commercial miners. And well, of course, there's a concern about the issuance, but there's also excitement around the idea that the miners don't have to immediately dump their ZEC to pay off their hardware. They can do something with their ZEC, and they can take it and stake it as well. So we expect a lot of miners, at least if not all of them, to also be finalizers or stakers, or at least be delegating their ZEC to somebody. But go ahead on that. The other thing is that, you know, there's a life cycle with mining hardware, so the impact would not be evident immediately. It would, you know, if you're worried about the hash rate or whatever, and it makes it more competitive because there's less ZEC that they're competing for. So there's a lot of dynamics in place there, but I'll let somebody else chime in.
Yeah, some of the big mining pools have like validator subsidiaries. So that's one thing that we learned when we went out and we talked to some of these teams.
Oh, I see a question from Dre about ZSAs, right?
We already got that,
Okay.
but I did lose track of all the questions in the chat. I was answering that question, so if there's any more, I'm not aware of them at the moment.
Okay, well, if there are any questions that we didn't answer, feel free to ask them on the forum, or you can hit us up on Twitter, and we will answer you. Let's see. So anything?
Very quickly, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a special surprise for anyone who participated in Crosslink Milestone 4B workshop. If you could head to this link, you'll be able to burn your NFT and claim 100% genuine bootleg Shielded Labs merch / swag.
Sweet.
That is awesome.
Yep. And for anyone that participated in this workshop, you could head to this survey.
Oh my God! Now we have to go talk to the Shielded Labs legal department to get them not to sue
Yes.
Squirrel.
This is a trademark violation. That's awesome. I want one of those mugs. Okay, let's end it here. I guess, you know, thanks everybody for coming out. We plan to do more of these workshops in the future that build on what we presented today. If anyone has any more questions, again, feel free to reach out to us. You can respond to one of the many threads on Crosslink threads on the forum, or just ping us on X. If you enjoyed this workshop and you support Crosslink, please feel free to post publicly about it. Again, there's a lot of misinformation and concerns being voiced out there by a small group of loud voices, so we could use your support. From our perspective, like, we're going through a pretty rigorous process, and we're open to feedback and iterating on our design. We've demonstrated that in the past. It's changed significantly over the months. So if you have any constructive feedback about Crosslink's design, let us know that as well. And then lastly, just a huge thank you to the Zingo team for creating the beta mobile wallet that supports staking. And yeah, thanks to everybody for coming out, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, and I would add, we will be keeping the network running for at least a couple of days, probably weeks, so you can test both of the
Years.
wallets going forward.
Decades.
Years.